My colleagues were howling with pigs. I saved them. I should have left right away, but I didn't.
Stay with me, hero.
I went into her bed, ate and drank in her house, and let the year go by. But the truth is a little different. It wasn't temptation, it was a collapse.
Why? Why didn't Odysseus run from the island of the witch? Who turned his men into pigs? More precisely, why did he stay for an entire year? Most people look at this part of the myth and think of it as a story about temptation, a hero who lost his focus for a moment. But if that is all we see, the scene becomes far too flat. What makes it stranger is this: the idea that he stayed because he was afraid of Circe is less convincing than the idea that he stayed because it was too comfortable to leave. When people are chased by monsters, they run. But when they are held by comfort, they stop on their own. And that is exactly what makes this story last. Picture the scene. The sea has already swallowed so many lives. Most of Odysseus' crew were gone. They have fled from giants, watched men taken by man-eating creatures, heard the screams of their companions and the cracking of wood, as everything fell apart, and somehow escaped with just one ship left. This is more than physical exhaustion. This is what it looks like when the mind has been worn down. Then they reach an island. The forest is deep. The air feels strange. Smoke rises in the distance. Someone lives there. But this is no ordinary house. A beautiful voice drifts out. Inside, someone is singing while weaving. Lions and wolves wander near the door. But they do not attack. They move close, almost gently, like tame animals. From that moment on, the mood is already wrong. This is not just a frightening place. It is sweet. It is beautiful. And that makes it even more dangerous. Odysseus' men enter the house. Circe serves them food, a rich, sweet meal mixed with honey, wine, and grain. The problem is that something else is mixed in too. The potion does not only break the body, it erases the road home. It blurs memory. It wipes out purpose. It turns people into beasts. That is why they become pigs. Not only because their bodies change, but because the human center inside them begins to collapse. The will to return home. The grip on who they are. The part of them that still knows where they are going. That is what makes this scene so unsettling. Not simply that humans become animals, but that once memory is gone, a human being is not so different from one. When Odysseus hears what happened, he is furious. But the story does not turn into a simple revenge tale. With help from a god, he resists Circe's magic. He draws his sword and forces the moment to turn. And then something surprising happens. The relationship flips. A second ago, she was a dangerous witch. Now she is the one who bathes him, feeds him, lets him sleep, and restores his men to human form. The terrifying place becomes a refuge almost overnight. And this is the detail many people miss. After getting his men back, Odysseus does not leave right away. Not after a day, not after a few days. He stays for a year. A full year of eating, drinking, resting, sleeping, and slowly coming back to life. If we reduce this to a romance, something important goes missing. If we sum it up as cheating or desire, the scene still does not make sense. Because it feels less like Circe was holding him there and more like his own exhaustion was. At that point, Odysseus is not just a hero. He is a survivor. Heroes shine in battle. Survivors fall apart afterward. People are strange like that. In the middle of danger, they hold on. But once they feel safe, that is when they finally break. The moment it seems to be over, the moment the tension leaves the body, everything gives way at once. Most of us know that feeling. When life is at its worst, somehow we keep going. But when the crisis passes, suddenly we cannot move. We feel blank. We want to do nothing. We just want to lie still for days. That is what Circe's island may have been for Odysseus. The first place where it was finally allowed to stop. The first place where he did not have to stay awake all night in fear. The first place where someone put food in front of him, warmed water for him, and offered him a bed. So this is not only a story about temptation. It is also a story about a worn-out human being finding a place where he is finally allowed to collapse. That is why it is hard to see Circe as nothing more than a villain. Of course she is dangerous. She tests people. She breaks them down. She clouds memory. But for that 1 year, she also becomes someone who helps Odysseus recover. She holds two opposite meanings at once: monster and healer, temptress and guide, danger and rest. And that is what makes her feel so human. Because in life, the things that stop us are not always openly harmful. Very often, they soothe us. They calm us down. They make us want to stay. If something tears us apart, we know to run. But when something makes us feel safe, we rarely question it. Even if it is slowly taking our time, blurring our direction, and pulling us away from where we were meant to go, we still want to lean into it. And there is another detail that matters. In the end, the first people to say it was time to leave were not Odysseus, but his men. That changes everything. It is not that Odysseus did not know he had to go home. It is that he had let that urgency slip away. Or maybe, on some level, he wanted to. Not because he did not love home, but because returning to the sea meant returning to pain. When the pain of moving forward feels heavier than the love of what waits for you, your feet stop. That is why this scene feels less like a record of cowardice and more like a record of honesty. Even a great hero can reach a point where he simply does not want to endure anymore. We usually remember Odysseus as clever and strong, but the stories that stay with us longest are not the ones where strength looks perfect. They are the ones where weakness finally shows. On Circe's island, he is not the man who conquered the world. He is the man worn down by it. And that is why the fact that he stayed for a year does not make him less compelling. It makes him more human. Some people may find that disappointing. Penelope is waiting at home, so why is he doing this? That is a fair question. But that discomfort is exactly why the story still breathes. A perfect hero may earn admiration, but he does not always stay in the heart. A hero who hesitates, who wavers, who knows what he should do and still puts it off for a while. That kind of hero stays with us, because that version feels familiar. And Circe's role does not end there. She is also the one who sends Odysseus toward the next stage. She tells him how to reach the underworld. She explains what he must do next. At that point, she is no longer just an object of temptation. She becomes a threshold, the figure you must meet before passing from one world into another. From childhood into adulthood, from certainty into loss, from reckless strength into deeper understanding. People always cross some kind of threshold before they change. Circe is both the one who holds Odysseus in place and the one who prepares him to move on. That is why she cannot be summed up in a single line as a villain. Some relationships keep us still, but still leave us change. Circe is that kind of presence. To me, the heart of this myth is not the crew who became pigs. That part is easy to notice. The quieter and more frightening transformation happens inside Odysseus. He could face enemies, he could fight with a sword. In those moments, he was clear. But in front of warm food, a bed, and gentle welcome, he lost his direction. That is a deeper truth than it first seems. People do not lose their way only because of pain. More often, they lose it because of comfort. Despair can push people to move, but comfort can make them stop. What steals our future is not always fear. Sometimes it is a good enough present. That is why the story of Circe still feels so close to us now. On the days when we know what we need to do but still put it off. In the moments when we cannot even hate the thing that made us weaker. On the nights when we know we should leave, but whisper to ourselves, just a little longer. In those moments, maybe we too have stepped onto Circe's island. A place that looks safe, A place that feels warm once you are inside. A place you know you should leave, but somehow your feet will not move. And the problem is that it does not always appear with the face of evil. Very often, it arrives with kindness. It lets us rest. It comforts us. It helps us forget the pain. And that is why we stay too long. In the end, this feels like a myth that understands people very well. We do not only struggle between good and evil. Much more often, we struggle between duty and comfort. We know the road we should take, but it is hard to walk away from the place that is holding us with gentle hands. So maybe the most important question is not, is this dangerous? Maybe the better question is this a sweet kind of stillness that is keeping me from moving? Odysseus' year on Circe's island feels less like the fall of a hero, and more like a truth about being human. When we are hurt, we want to rest. When we are exhausted, we want to forget. When we are lonely, we want something to hold us. But in the end, we still have to leave. Because what makes us human is not the strength to never stop. It is the strength to begin again after we do. And that is why this is not just a story about a witch. It is a story about everyone who has stopped for a while. And everyone who knows that one day, they will have to start moving again.